Oh hey, welcome to another edition. Hand-laid tracks and 3D printed trains with Socrates. Today we're taking a second look at Z-hop. This time we're going to put it in the middle of a print. So I started building a little wood pulp carrier. It's a 40-foot N-scale model car. It uses various color changes, but mostly with the layers. And it has a little wood rack in the middle with a spline in the middle to help it print better. And I thought, well, that black isn't very appealing. Maybe I could make it white. But I don't have a bamboo printer, just have a regular Creality CR10 V3. What do? Z-hop! So I modified the design and took the piece out of the middle, turned it into a separate object. So this is basically three objects printed in order, 1, 2, and 3. The first object is the bottom in black. The second is the tan colored or cream colored middle, which matches the top of the car. And then the third object is the entire spikes for the rest of it. It gets a little confusing, but I was asked to get a more in-depth discussion about how to do it in some of the other comments on the original one, because the first Z-hop video is about how to do a Z-hop on the first layer. This prints this way, and you can see the Z-hop gives you a nice flat layer, and basically the Z-hop causes the printer head to bounce over top the previous print. That way you can print the yellow and then get inside of it for the red or the black or the copper or whatnot, and not just knock the other things out of the way. And Z-hop basically is a vertical retraction. So every time the printer does a retract, the printer head will move up. I'm leaving 0.6 millimeters for a vertical height of my maximum vertical print height, so I'm doing a Z-hop of 0.8. So it's a little bit thicker. And in fact, I now do a 0.2 Z-hop on everything. That avoids that drag line. If you do a flat surface, you end up with a line dragging through your final print. Add just a little bit, at least 0.1 millimeter vertical extension or Z-hop, and that'll eliminate that for as well. But basically, I did the whole thing originally with SketchUp, and let's take a look at the process, shall we? So I start with basically, I do everything in SketchUp. It's in SketchUp Make 2017. It's free, it's old, it works. I broke the object into three different objects. The bottom, the first is to the cream color, and then the third, which is the spikes. And this started basically as a finished object, and then I sort of manipulated it to create it into three different sections. And you can see the bottom section prints, like I said, first it's been black, and then that little cream section is a small tiny print on top of that. And then you have to do color changing between each one of them. And the essence of the Z-hop is you add both the Z-hop and the color change to the three different programs. And I have a little key, that rectangle around it is a key shape. That way when you add them one at a time into the slicer, in this case Simplicity 3D, that key shape puts them all in the exact same place. And as you can see, they fall into place at that point. And I basically have three versions of a Z-hop slicing code setup, a preset. The first has a color change at the end, but it does not need a Z-hop because there's no Z-hopping going on. The second one has both Z-hop and a color change, and the third one just has Z-hop because it doesn't have to change the color at the end of the print. And with Simplicity 3D, you can select your models by which of the processors you're going to use to print. So since there's three different models in the same place and three different print processes, I just assign the first to number 1, second, the middle to number 2, and the last to number 3. And again, these are three separate G-codes of separate STL files, and you slice them one at a time, and you print them one at a time. And you can see that's the print from the first one. It's a very quick print, just about 7 minutes, I think, and the second one's even quicker, a mere minute. And these are being done at 0.3 millimeter layer heights, and the last is a full hour. And again, you do a quick color change in between each one of them. And I add the color change into the script as well. Inside the extruder panel, again, this is Simplicity 3D, you have the retract vertical height, the vertical lift. I set that to 0.8 because my verticals are 0.6. Now, I'm going to end up doing two of them and end up being a 1.2 millimeter height, but that's because I'm offsetting with double Z-hops. The ending is where you put the change filament code. You can see the code there. Basically, the M600 is the change filament code, and once this is the printing of the second object, we've already done the change filament code after that first object, and then very quickly the second one is a very, very short little print it's not really adding much to it. In the end, the object, the color's even covered with a load. Sometimes with 3D printing, you do it because you can. Again, I was asked how to give some more detail about how this whole thing is done, and this is the whole process of doing a Z-hop. This is a Z-hop in the middle, which is, I hadn't really thought of it, but I realized that it was a way I could do it. And once that first color is over, it has an automatic color change the way I'm doing it at the end of it, and it automatically kicks out the filament, put in the filament for the third, which again is going back to black in this case. And also, if you're doing from black to white, I purge 3 or 4 or even 5 times to get the black out, because the lighter color will definitely bleed black for a while if you don't purge a lot of the lighter color to get rid of it. I also pull the filament a little bit to one side. It seems to get it off the edge of the nozzle as well. But once the third print starts, that's basically you're done having to pay any more attention to this. And you can see that it's Z-hopping over the white at this point, and this is now the second layer. Now we're printing on top of the whole thing, and the white is being encased within it. It makes it a little bit sturdier, a more sturdy print. Again, it's a way of getting color where there's no other way to do it. I mean, you can get a bamboo, or you can just simply use Z-hop, and you can see it prints directly over the previous layer, and it's sandwiched in nice and clean. It's a nice little way to end up with a print, like I say. And in the end, this is nicer looking, than that. So now for me at this point, I'm getting a lot of strings off this thing, which is unfortunate. I'm going to start playing with some of my retraction distance, etc. But I found that hitting it with a little bit of a torch real fast cleans them up pretty darn quickly. Hopefully not too much toxic in the air, but just a little bit of flame and cleans all the hairs off real fast. It's not something I'm going to print too many of, so in the end, at this point, I'm happy with it. I only printed about 5 or 6 of them. Move on to more and different cars. These are available on Cults too, by the way. And so the Z-hop just gives you a lot more options to how you can set things up, how you can design things, and how you can color things. And if you find something that you don't like in my case, I didn't like that black in the middle of the design, so I changed it, and that's a nice thing. And here's the this is again, design is a nice thing. With design, you can make things as you like, and in the end, they fit together quite nicely, and the ends slip in there quite cleanly. This is an unclean print. For a while, I was cleaning it up again and again, but now I got it nice enough where they slip right in there quite pleasingly. And this, again, I really like the way this thing snaps together. It was enough of an excuse to make another one just to have it snap in one more time. Just click, 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 click. I love design. Design is such a great thing. If you don't design with a 3D printer, you're missing half the joy of it. I definitely suggest. I do SketchUp. Like I say, it's an old SketchUp, Make 2017, but the program still works perfectly well for me. And for these particular things, if you're interested in it, it's an N-scale model train. I used micro-train couplers on them, and I 3D printed the entire layout. You can see it running. It was my COVID lockdown project, and they work really great with micro-train couplers. They're all medium shank. The pins slip into the bottom of the couplers, and made some loads as well. In this case, this is a log load, and I like to use a log load because it's easy to put the couplers in because it gives it a nice support. There's always tricks to everything. For me, these couplers were a real pain to get the little pins into them, but I found that by putting it on the tip of a multimeter probe, I can get the pins inside the couplers and then use that same probe and more or less put it over the hole, wiggle, push it down, and the thing slides right into the hole. Works really good. I have really had no problems with the micro-train coupler so far. They one of the 2 pins, the bigger the small one, always fits so far. And you can see it works pretty nice. I designed everything on the 3D printer as far as being the 2-foot rule, 2 foot away. For me, it looks really good. Really happy with it. Pleased with the results. So basically, to use Z-hop, you want to break your object into different colored zones. In this case, every one of the colors is its own object. Or in this case, the 3 objects are sort of stacked together. The colors are one object, but the black itself is also in 2 objects, the bottom half and the top half. But I use a key around it so they slice easy in the slicer program, and then a numbering system. So I basically print in order 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. In this case, I think this had 6 or 7. In this case, only the 3. And that's how you can do Z-hop in the middle of a print. It works the same on the base, except the objects would be on one level. And you can also do them on the top. And I'll do another video on how to do Z-hop on the top layer next. Thanks for watching. Hand-laid tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Hand-laid track still doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song still. Hand-laid track still doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Hand-laid tracks, it still doesn't have a theme song.